AD&D's second edition has a reputation of being one of the most crunchiest versions of D&D ever published. If you spend enough time on YouTube or on forums, then you're going to be convinced that everyone used every single rule at every session. And that got me thinking, did anybody actually play AD&D's second edition that way? Because my group definitely did not. And after thinking back on almost 4 decades of gaming, I realized something. We were playing the version of AD&D's second edition that worked for our table. What did we actually use? Honestly, the bare bones mixed with a few other little tidbits. D10 initiative, lowest goes first. THAC0, or THAC0, if that's how your group pronounced it, you can be wrong. Descending armor class, savings throws, weapon proficiencies, non-weapon proficiencies, only sometimes. Exceptional strength for fighters, you know, the D100 chart, separate race and class, and yes, the much scoffed at, dead at -10 hit points. That's honestly about it. I could be forgetting a few things, but that's the game I remember. Knowing what I know now, it looked a lot more like First Quest, the second edition beginner box set. I have a video on the card up here if you're interested in my review of that. Here's what we ignored. Pretty much every single blue box that was marked as an optional rule. Weapon speed? Nope. Weapon versus armor modifiers? Nope. Initiative modifiers? Nope. Detailed encumbrance? Never. Training rules? Maybe once. Material components? Only when they made the spell cooler. I scoop some bat guano and sulfur into my hand, point my finger, and cast Fireball! Did your group actually play with many of the optional rules? Tell me which ones down in the comments. The things we had to make up. Here's the funny thing. I've searched the player's handbook, and I've searched the DMG. Many sessions on the toilet. What, you don't read your RPG books on the toilet? Anyway, I still can't find anywhere in the rule books where it states how many spells a first level wizard gets. So like every other gaming group on Earth that was playing second edition, we homebrewed it. I think we landed on something like 4 spells that the player gets to pick. Problem solved, that's what house rules are for. Character creation was fast. People today act like second edition character creation took forever. No, they didn't. Roll 6 ability scores. We rolled 46, dropped the lowest, and arranged them however we wanted. I still do that today. Pick a race, pick a class, roll up starting gold and buy equipment, choose an alignment, chaotic good or chaotic neutral were always my go-to. Name your character. Done. Actually, I usually come up with my character name first. Anybody else out there do that? We're talking 5 minutes here. Maybe 10 if you're stuck on coming up with a character name. If you wanted some more flavor, then that's where the complete handbook series comes into play. Again, more options. AD&D's second edition should have had this tagline. Almost everything is optional. I love the complete handbook series, as you can tell by my shelf. One of my favorite characters was Kel, the Blade Singer, that I took from the complete Book of Elves. Now, Kel had a very unusual hobby. Let's just say he opened up a leather goods shop that he called Saks Fifth Avenue. Good times. Non-weapon proficiencies. My favorite non-weapon proficiency, by far, was cooking. Not because of the bonus, honestly. I just loved the flavor. My fighter, who was based upon Conan the Barbarian, come on, I was 13 years old. He would make the most luxurious and decadent meals. Who am I kidding? I'm 50 years old and I still play fighter barbarians. Magellan made the most tasteful goat cheese soup. Don't forget the mead. And every evening I would tell the party, "Sit down and feast upon the meal that I have craftily prepared for you." Then I'd roll terribly. But it didn't matter. That proficiency made the character feel real to me. What was your favorite, totally useless non-weapon proficiency? The big revelation. Here's what I've realized after revisiting AD&D's 2nd edition. When people criticize it today, I'm wondering, are you remembering the actual game? Or are you remembering every optional rule that you saw in the book? The key word here is optional. AD&D's 2nd edition wasn't trying to force every subsystem on every table. It was handing you a toolbox and saying, build the game you want to play. Because for me and my friends, AD&D's 2nd edition was surprisingly light. It flowed. We weren't calculating weapon speed every single round. We weren't flipping through the rule books to find some obscure rule. We were kicking down dungeon doors, rolling dice, and laughing our asses off. I think there's 3 different versions of AD&D's 2nd edition. First is the AD&D in the books. Every rule, every optional rule, every blue box text. Really a toolbox full of possibilities. Second is the AD&D 2nd edition that the internet remembers. Weapon speed, mounted flying combat, charts, math, and complexity. When did optional mean mandatory? When did that happen? And then third, the AD&D 2nd edition that most of us actually played. Kick down the door, roll initiative, fight the monsters, loot the treasure, get back to the tavern, get drunk. Rinse and repeat. And then we would lose ourselves in some of the greatest campaign settings that TSR ever published. I had my own homebrew world, but I played a lot of Mystara, Ravenloft, and even a little bit of Lankmar. Man, what an era. Darksun, Spelljammer, Birthright, Dragonlance, and the list goes on. People sometimes ask me, do you prefer basic D&D or advanced D&D's 2nd edition more? And honestly, I think after all these years, I've figured out why I love them both. Because the AD&D's 2nd edition that my friends and I played was not buried under every single optional subsystem. It was fast. It was flexible. It let us choose the parts that we thought would make the game more fun and then ignore the rest. And get this, nobody thought that we were ignoring rules. We thought that we were playing AD&D 2nd edition because we were. Looking back, that's exactly what David Zeb Cook was encouraging us to do in the forward. Make the game your own. I don't think my gaming groups were unusual. In fact, I think we played like many of you may have played back in the day, or even still play today. Maybe that's why Old School Essentials Advanced felt so familiar when I first picked it up. I wasn't discovering an old style of play. I have been playing that way since the beginning. Here's a question. What optional AD&D 2nd edition rules did your group quietly ignore? Or were you one of those rare groups that used weapon versus armor modifiers? I'd like to thank my Patreon supporters for making this video possible. Without you, none of this happens, so thank you from the bottom of my heart. Also, sign up for the Sawwind Vale newsletter. This is my own campaign setting that I'm developing that's a little slice of Halloween. All right, everyone. Thanks for stopping by Agranak Studios today, and we'll see you on the next one. Later!